Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Today we will discuss about written communication in our course for business communication report writing. For the past two classes, we were discussing about the basics of communication, introduction to communication, and obviously the organizational communication, the flow of formal and informal flow of network, formal network and the informal network. Then we yesterday discussed about oral communication and interpersonal communication. Today we have to move on to the written communication. This is the major portion of your course. This will be assessed. Most of the questions in exams are related to to, to written communication in your final examination. The MCQs are obviously related to written communication, and there are two at least descriptive questions where you will have to write a memorandum or a letter or a short report. So we have to discuss about written communication today, and we will be discussing about memorandums and business letters today, uh, and then we move on to the business reports, which will be obviously tomorrow. Probably we will be discussing about business reports. So the descriptive questions are definitely going to come regarding written communication, and you, because your paper is also skill based, so you will be asked to write a memorandum or a letter or a business report. So we, first of all, we move on to the basics of writing. By the way, in the introduction to communication classes, we discuss about some characteristics of communication, that is the 7 C's of communication. And as far as writing is concerned, we have to apply those techniques for writing effectively in business. The first thing about writing is obviously, because this is business writing, so we need to first of all understand that writing is always done in a process. We have to follow a process of writing, and the first topic which we will discuss today would be of the writing process. We will discuss briefly the writing process first of all, and then we can move on to the various business documents. So in order to understand what writing is, obviously we move on to I will share some files first of all, because the first topic which we will discuss would be the memorandums. So uh, within those files, you will find the writing process as well. I will share the screen right now. I hope that screen is shared properly. Stop it away. Just screen sharing. Why it is paused? Yeah, just a bit, just a few minutes, so a few seconds. Some of the slides. Just a bit. Just a bit. Excuse me. God is sorry. ये शफीक साहब, ये मैं स्क्रीन को शेयर कर रहा हूँ तो पॉज हो रहा है बार बार। हाँ, मैं आप अगर मुझे बताइए भी कि आपको स्क्रीन नजर आ रहा है, नहीं आ रहा। ठीक है, मैं अभी शेयर करता हूँ। चलो, I hope that you can now see on the screen.
सर शो हो रही है सर।
अब हो रही है, अब हाँ, पहले नहीं हो रही थी, अब होना शुरू हुई। चलो, थैंक यू वेरी मच। So, obviously, I was saying that because we have to discuss about writing, and as I said, that writing has to be done in a process. So, we have to first discuss about the writing process, and then we move on to the memorandums and the other written documents. That is the letters, business letters. So, if you see the writing process, this writing process in some of the books is known as 3 into 3 writing process. It means that there are 3 phases or 3 stages of writing, and in each phase, 3 steps have to be followed. So the first phase of writing is, or the stage 1 has we have to think about 3 things. That is, we have to analyze, anticipate, and obviously the anticipation and adaptation has to be done. Now, what is the meaning of analysis, anticipation, and adaptation? If you just remember in your school, you were also you must have been taught about the writing process. For example, when you were writing essays or some other text, and the first phase, which was regarded as the pre-writing stage. Before writing, you have to brainstorm for various ideas. It is known as the generating ideas stage. So the first phase in the business writing process again has to do with some sort of brainstorming, or you can say generating ideas. And so what kind of ideas we will be thinking about when we are writing a business? So obviously we have to be more technical over here. We just cannot generate ideas randomly. We have to be more focused. So the first stage, the first thing we has to be done is we have to analyze something. And what kind of analysis has to be done? As I said earlier, there are 2 things which needs to be analyzed whenever you are communicating with people, right? Especially in business, you have to analyze 2 things. The first thing is the purpose, and the second thing is the audience, your audience. So we will be doing analysis about the purpose of writing, and obviously for the analysis. So we have to think about why we are writing. First of all, we have to think about do I really need to write about anything, or can we use some other channel of communication to send a message? For example, if a matter can be solved by just a telephone call, so there is no need to write. You can just call someone and have a conversation. So writing is normally done when the matter is, you can say, formal or more serious, right? Or which needs to be considered properly by the audience. So when we are writing, the first thing we need to think about is why there is a need to write, and what type of purpose we will be obviously going for. We will mention in the written document. So for example, are we writing to inform someone, to remind about something, or to persuade someone, or to share a bad news, or to share a good news? Whatever the purpose is, you think about it. The second thing which you need to analyze would be the audience. You will think about who is your audience, who is your primary audience, that is the main audience, or are there any secondary audiences as well? So you have to think about, you have to do analysis about it. Okay. And then we move on to the anticipation part. Now, there is one more thing you have to understand, that in the books, if you find the writing process diagram or the figure, you will find that there are 3 steps given over there. For example, if you read it in Excellence in Business Communication, the concepts which are discussed in the writing process are similar to the ones we are discussing over here. The terminology may be different, but the concept is same, right? The concept is similar. In the same way, the writing process will be described. The terms or the concepts or the terminology would be different, but the main concept behind the writing process would be similar to the things which we will discuss today in the writing process. So after your analysis of the purpose and your audience, you move on to the anticipation stage. Now, what is this? Stage 1 also consists that you have to anticipate about something. What is the meaning of anticipation? Obviously, we will anticipate audience reaction. The people the audience to whom we are writing, we will think about what kind of reaction we will get after we have sent the message, after the receiver has received the message. Obviously, because we write, our writing is more focused and our writing is purposeful. So we also have to think about what kind of reaction the audience will give to us. So for that, we have to anticipate before even sending the message, even before when we are thinking about the channel of communication, or even before when we are writing something, when writing the message, we have to think about what type of reaction can come from the audience, and we have to prepare beforehand about it, that okay, we expect that this kind of reaction will be coming, and so we have to organize or writing properly. We have to think about the proper strategy, the proper techniques, the proper writing plan before sending the message. The third thing in the first stage would be the adaptation. Now, what is the meaning of adaptation? Adaptation is simply you think that you change according to the conditions or according to the situations. For example, as human beings, we can adapt to weather changes. We know that there are 4 types of weathers, and summers, winters, autumn, and spring. So as our human body has the capacity to absorb, or you can say adapt to the changes which we are facing in our surroundings. This is our ability. This Allah Almighty has given us the capability to adapt to the different kinds of changes, different kinds of situations. Similarly, when you're writing, you have to adapt to different kinds of techniques. You should be able to choose between which technique would be the better technique, which organizational pattern would be better, which strategy would be used, and so on, which format has to be used. So all these things have to be thought of in the first stage of your writing. Then we move on to the second stage, and that has to do with obviously the research, organization, and composition stage. Here again, first after we have analyzed or anticipated and adapted the various kinds of techniques, because we are skillful enough to change our techniques depending on the kind of writing we are doing. The second thing would be to research for the data, right? To search for the data, to investigate for the data. Then when we have got the data, then we think about organizing the data into a proper pattern, into proper structure, using proper strategy. So the second stage of writing is known as the writing stage itself, the composing stage. So obviously you have the data in front of you. Have you collected the data internally, or have you collected the data from some other external source? So whatever the case is, you have to research for the data, collect the data, and then obviously draft your message, your text, right? You have to compose your text, right, in a proper organizational pattern, by using a proper strategy, and so on. We will discuss about the strategies, the different strategies which we have to use, and the different techniques or writing plans we will be discussing today, because we will be discussing a lot of different types of documents. So obviously we will be discussing about the strategies and techniques. So research and organization, and then obviously composition, which itself is which means that you have to compose or write or draft your first draft, right? You will write the whole message, and right? And you have to think about all these points which are given over here. Check files, gather documentation, outline or list points to cover, compose the first draft. And obviously, when we compose the first draft, we expect it to be revised. Obviously, we will not just send it without revision, without proofreading, because your organizational reputation is at stakes, obviously. And as a business professional, you have to be careful about that you are not supposed to do any grammatical and spelling mistakes, and the content has to be correct as well. As I said, that we have to follow the 7 C's concepts, the 7 C's of communication as well. Right. So then we move on to the third stage of writing, and that is known as the revision stage or proofreading stage. And here again, we have to think about a lot of many things. For example, when you have written the first draft and you want it to obviously you will revise it for clarity and conciseness, and obviously you will think about, you will also check that all the relevant data is provided and completed, and is it correctly written or not. So revision means to improve your language and content of the text. The content means that the things which you have included, the language which you have included in your letter or in your message, it needs to be improved, and you have to make it concise. It should be clear, it should be correct, it should be complete. Concrete, specific terms have to be used. Irrelevant information has to be given, whether it is courteous or not, or are you including you attitude or not. Consideration is obviously is an important characteristic of communication. So we revise in the third stage. And then we have to think about the proofreading part. Proofreading is different from revision. Proofreading, here we check the spellings, the punctuation, the capitalization, and the mechanics, obviously. So in the revision stage, we are improving the content, and in the proofreading stage, we obviously are correcting the other grammatical aspects, the punctuation, spellings, and as I said, you have to just see which letters have to be capitalized, and the other aspects of writing, obviously. What is this means? Evaluation. Evaluation obviously means that you will now evaluate the overall document, and you will obviously think about what kind of feedback you will get from the receiver of the message, because it's your right as a sender of the message to get the feedback as well. So you will evaluate the whole document. Is it completed or not? All the information is included or not? Are there any important matters which needs to be included or not? So overall evaluation has to be done. And then obviously during the evaluation stage, you think about you are expecting some sort of feedback as well. But first you have to send the message to the concerned audience, right? So this is what the writing process is all about. Now we move on to the other aspects of writing, obviously, and you know that when we talk about writing, as I said, this writing, especially business writing, has to be very professional, right? You have to write it correctly, and it takes a lot of time. Obviously, it takes a lot of planning as well. It takes more planning than the oral communication, as we were discussing yesterday as well. And the messages which you send, you have just one chance to send the message, so you have to revise it properly, proofread properly, because that message sometimes represents your whole organization. Especially if you're sending the message externally, that is outside the organization, to customers, to clients, and so on. So writing is obviously, but you must be thinking about, should we consider writing as really important nowadays or not? Yes, it's really important. Still in business, we write business letters and obviously memorandums as well. So as far as our you can say our daily routine is concerned, we are not writing about anything, or we are writing just on the social media network or chatting with someone. But there we can break a lot of grammatical rules. It's allowed. We use a lot of informal language, slang language, but this cannot happen when you're talking about business writing. Right, so you have to be very careful what you are writing about. You have to use the conversational tone, and obviously just somewhat we have to follow a lot of formalities as well. Right. So a lot of formalities in terms of the information you are sending, in terms of the formats, different formats you are using. So writing is more formal in the sense that it follows more formalities, more you can say limitations it has got, right? So you cannot break rules over here. It's more, you can say, formalized, right? Okay. So we move on to the other aspects of writing now. Okay, I will share something else as well. First of all, I should stop sharing here. Then I'll move on to the next sharing document. This is the one. It's a problem. Share it. There's some sort of problem occurs. I don't know what is that problem. I hope you can see something on the screen again. That is obviously some sort of a strategy, direct and indirect strategy is mentioned over here. Now, when we talk about writing, especially, although as far as the overall communication is concerned, whether you are communicating orally or whether you are writing something, is or you can say not just business writing, but every type of communication which we are doing in this world follows uh, basically two strategies. It depends on the purpose of communication. It depends on the audience as well, again, okay, which type of strategy we have to use, and it also depends on the situations as well. Since we will be discussing about business letters today, so you will find out that these two strategies will be used. Sometimes direct strategy will be used, sometimes indirect strategy will be used. This direct strategy and indirect strategy, so we will briefly look at it over here, and then we move on to the documents where this direct and indirect strategy is used. This direct strategy is also known as deductive approach, and indirect is known as inductive approach as well. So we are looking at the direct strategy first of all. And by the way, it's not about business messages only that we are using direct strategy. As I said, even if you're talking to your friends, you or your family members, you sometimes use direct and indirect strategy, right? So direct strategy or deductive strategy is that whenever you are sending the message, whether it's a written message or whether it's an oral message, or whether you're speaking or writing, in a direct strategy or in directive approach, you have to start your message with the main idea without reviewing background or without even mentioning the background information about it. You straight away start by with the main idea, right? So I will give you examples later on what this is a direct strategy is when we specifically discuss the different types of business messages. So in a direct strategy, you start off with the main idea, then you actually go for details and explanation. And if you think that the background information is important, you can include it, and then you close the message. So there can be various examples where you use direct strategy, especially if you talk about friends. Normally, when we communicate with our friends, we use direct strategy because we do not waste our time on the background information, but we just focus on the main idea, the main purpose of the message, and just say it without even thinking if the background information is important. So when to use direct strategy, as I said, that you are obviously you need to see the purpose first of all, and sometimes you look at the audience reaction as well. So if you think that the information which you will send to the people to whom you're communicating or sending the message, I'm talking about the written message here, whether written or oral, it doesn't matter, but we are focusing on the written message, written communication. So if you think that the audience reaction after getting your message would be neutral, or you can say positive, or the audience may be pleased to hear from you, or if the audience is, for example, interested as well to whatever message you are sending, we use the direct pattern over there. So and obviously Just hold on. The advantage of using the direct strategy is obviously it saves the reader's time, it sets a proper frame of mind, it prevents frustration, it appears business-like, by the way, because in business we do not have enough time, or you can say we have to save our time and obviously the cost of communication as well. So in most of the cases, so direct strategies is preferred, but in few cases we use indirect strategy, and we will discuss about the indirect strategy as well. But that is what you need to understand. And it can be useful. Direct strategy is useful when the receiver is receptive, means that the receiver is willing to get the message from you, and the receiver requires no education about the topic. It means that the receiver knows the background or somewhat not interested in the background, so you can just use direct strategy. And with the messages routine, means if we are publishing these messages or sending these messages as a routine, for example, daily or weekly. So at that occasion, you can use the direct strategy, right? We will discuss specific purposes for it later on. So direct strategy is the one strategy. The second strategy, which can be used in business communication, is the indirect strategy. And what this indirect strategy or inductive approach means, that obviously we do not come to the main idea straight away, but we first of all give the background or explanation of why we are writing something. So there you do not start with the main idea, main purpose, but you just take your time, sometimes to prepare the reader, sometimes to create a situation. You give a background or explanation, and then you actually move on to the main idea, and then obviously you can close the message. So when do we use an indirect strategy? When obviously there are some occasions where your audience may not feel positive, or may not be interested to hear from you, or when the audience is hostile, for example, or if against you. So at that time it would be better to use indirect strategy rather than rushing towards the main idea straight away. We first of all prepare the reader before we can come to the main idea. And if your audience is, for example, displeased or disappointed, or if your audience is uninterested or unwilling, or if your audience needs to be persuaded, right, or if you are sharing bad news, especially, sometimes it is better to use indirect strategy for all these situations. So what can be the advantage of indirect strategy? It respects the feelings of the audience. Obviously, just instead of shocking the reader with the main purpose, or especially when you are actually writing a bad news or sharing bad news, you try to prepare the reader first of all. So you respect feelings of the audience, encourages a fair hearing, minimizes a negative reaction, obviously. So when there is a chance that you, after reading your message, some sort of negative reaction or hostile reaction can be received, can be given as a feedback. So it's better to avoid using direct strategy and move on to the indirect strategy. And it can be useful when the receiver may be upset, the receiver may be hostile, receiver must be persuaded or educated, and the message is is really sensitive or serious. It's better to use indirect strategy. So we can as we have discussed the direct and indirect strategy, now we quickly move on to the major documents of the business documents where we can employ this direct and indirect strategy successfully. Now, there is one more thing you need to understand. And that is not just in writing the way we are using direct and indirect. We are also using direct strategy and indirect strategy in our oral communication as well. So, but because our main focus is writing, so we will be dealing with these two strategies today. Now, we can move on to the next slide, and that is just hold on a bit. Sorry, I'm sorry, I've closed it. We can move on to the first topic, that is memorandums. So we will quickly discuss about memorandums. First of all, this is one of the major business document, and then we move on to the business letters first. why we have to discuss about memorandums, because then we will be talking about writing short reports. There again, you will be using either the memo format or the letter format for short reports as well. So that is why it's also important that we should also know what is this memorandum, first of all, the format used in memorandum. All right, so just hold on, I will share the screen and then we can move on further. Right, so I hope you can see the slides. Obviously, you must be at the slides right now. Now, you as modern communicators, we are aware of how emails are written, right? So we are not studying about emails, by the way. Have to discuss about memorandums, but I will be using some of the concepts of writing emails in order to make you understand about memorandums, because this is the best way how a business communication student can understand about memorandums, because you have not yet joined any organization, so you may not be aware of these memorandums yet. You must have heard this memorandum word many times in the news as well, in the media as well. But that those memorandums are different from the memorandums which we have to discuss today. Those memorandums, for example, you must have heard about memorandum of understanding or memorandum of agreement. These, or you must have heard about short forms of it. Memorandum of understanding is known as MOU. These are contracts and agreements which are signed between the governments, between the companies, right? So we are not supposed to discuss about those memorandums. That is just the name given to agreements and contracts. We are discussing about a document which is used internally in the organization, and those are known as memorandums, right? So the short form of a memorandum is a memo, or you can say a business memo, or internal memo, or inter-office memo. So whatever name you want, you can just have it, memorandums. So now we will look at memorandums. We have the understanding about emails, so we will be looking at the memorandums, because there are a lot of similarities between memorandums and emails. That is why I will be taking the help of emails in order to make you understand what memorandums are. So the first thing about memorandums is, we have already discussed about the writing process, by the way, so we will move on to the next thing. Uh, yeah. Now, it's written how organizations exchange written messages. Obviously, we are talking about paper-based messages. Even if you're writing, if you're typing the message, nowadays we are typing the message, not writing it by hand, but you have to take a printout of that text on a print from the printer, and then you have to post the message. The business letters and the inter-office memos or the memorandums are known as paper-based messages. Even if you're sending, for example, if you are typing it, you have to take a printout of it and send it by post or courier, right? So, or you can also attach these documents in an email as well, as an attachment, or you can share it on WhatsApp, but you have to create a different file. If you're writing a business letter, if you're writing a memorandum, you have to complete the file first of all, and then you have to attach that file. You are not supposed to write a memorandum inside the email, or you are not supposed to write the letter inside the email, or you are not supposed to write the memorandum or letter on WhatsApp text box, right? So you have to create the document, you have to create a different file, and then send it to an email or some electronic source, right? So that is first thing you have to understand, that these are written documents, these are paper-based documents, and still they have got importance in our, obviously, in our written communication in business. Which is the first thing about memorandums. As I said, that we have to deal with we will look at the emails and then understand what memorandums are. So as you know that in an email, if you look at the email, you, because you are aware of the emails, and you guys are IT savvy, so you know that when we are writing a message in an email, in the email text box, we normally think about just for the sake of making people understand what kind of writing process is being used, we can divide the writing into three parts. That is, you start the opening part or the introductory part, and then comes the main body, and then comes the closing part. So we will be discussing about it as well. The first thing about about the memorandums and emails would be that there are few components which we have to use the guide words, that is date, to, from, and subject. If you look at the email, there are certain columns which we have to fill in an email, right? For example, there is a to column where you have to write the email address of the primary audience. So same is the case with memorandums. The first thing which is important for a memorandum would be to. And here, instead of writing the email address of the person, you write the name of the person to whom you are sending the message. Or you also write the designation or position of the person, because this is a paper-based document, so you will have to type it, the name and the designation, or either of the two things, right? So instead of writing the email address like emails, it has a to column as well in a memorandum, and you type the name and the designation. Same is the case with the second column of, as far as email is concerned, that is from. Now from is automatically mentioned, right? It is automatically generated, because when you send a message, email message to someone, the other person will know from where this message has come from. But in a memorandum, you will have to include the from column as well. To at the top, then comes the from. For example, if you're writing the message, you will write your name and your designation or position instead of the email address, which we find out in the emails. In an email, you will find other columns as well, like for example, CC and BCC. Now, CC means carbon copy. That is for the secondary audience. If you are sending a message to, apart from the primary audience or the main audience, to the secondary audience as well. So you write in the CC column the email address of that person. You can include CC in a memorandum as well. After to, you can write CC as well. If there is a secondary audience apart from your primary audience, you can just include the name of that person or the designation of the person as well. Either you can write the CC after to, or you can write the CC at the end of the message or at the end of the memorandum. So what you like, you can include the CC over there. There's one more column in a email which is known as BCC, but obviously that means blind carbon copy, and you cannot do that in a memorandum, because in an email you have the you can say authority to send to a third person as well. And this blind carbon copy means that when you write the email address of anyone in the blind carbon copy, only that person and you as a sender of the message will know that both of you have received the message. But the people who are written, the email addresses, whose email addresses are written in the to column and CC column, they would not know that you have also sent it to some other person. So if you want to hide that you have sent a message to someone else apart from your primary and secondary audience, so you should write the email address of that person in BCC, and the CC or the two audiences would not know about that you have sent it to the third person as well. So that cannot be included in a memorandum. Obviously, you can include the to column and CC column, but not the obviously the BCC column, because that is hidden in email. So that is why emails are not considered very confidential, because you can send it to any number of people, and even your primary and secondary audience would not know that you are sending it to some other people as well. So now to, from, CC can be included if it's required to include the secondary audience, you can include it. Date is also included. Date can be written in any format. It depends on the organization where you belong to. If any particular format is used for the date, you can write the date over there. For example, today's date is 22nd November, so you can write 22nd November 2022. You can write 22/11/2022, or you can just write November 22, 2022, in any format you like. Subject is obviously the most important part of the message as well, especially in a memorandum, because subject you can say summarizes the whole message. So you need to include the subject. We will talk about it later. But so these are some of the guide words. Like emails, you have to include all these. You have to fill all these columns over there. No, we use nowadays vertical memorandums. You can say vertical format memorandums, where these 4 columns are listed down in a vertical fashion. And obviously when you write a memorandum, when you type a memorandum, you have to also place the heading of a memo or a memorandum at the top of your message, at the top. Especially, it is normally centered, but you can also try, if you want, you can just place it in the left margin or on the right margin, but the best place is the center of the page at the top. So memo heading is compulsory. Apart from these two, from date and subject columns, memo heading is really important as well. And I will discuss the other things as well later. Now we move on to the other things. I will show you the memorandum, and then we can also, first of all, we will discuss about something about the, we can say, just hold on a bit. First, we will discuss about the simple writing plan which we have to use in a memorandum, and then we move on to the samples. I will show you some samples, and then you can understand it easily to what a memorandum is. Now, the first thing about a memorandum, obviously, is the subject line after to, from, date, and subject. Or if you want to include CC as well, you can include at the top or at the end of the message, right? So the first thing is about the subject line. You know, in whenever we are writing, we can summarize the message, you can say content or the main idea in the subject line. But what we need to be aware of would be that we should avoid meaningless one-word headings such as help or urgent, or instead of that one word, we can just write at least two words, so that the reader or the receiver of the message understands by what this message is about. So, and the standard length of our subject line is obviously from 2 to 8 words. So you can obviously write the subject by using 2 or 8 words, or more than that as well. But standard is 8 words maximum. So the subject line, it summarizes the message clearly. You will find this, like emails, you have to also mention the subject, because so if you will not mention the subject, that would not be considered, that message may not be considered important, because it's a formality that you need to include a subject, especially in a memo or an email. In emails as well, sometimes it happens when we do not find any subject of the message, we do not take the message seriously. But as I said, there are a lot of similarities between memos and emails, and we have just seen it that the guide words or the component words or the columns which we are talking about in an email is similar as well in a memorandum. So the other things, as far as the strategy is concerned, or you can say the writing technique is concerned, or the plan of writing the memorandum, is similar to emails as well. As we can see here, that when we are writing a memorandum, we have to mention the heading of the memo at the top, right? And sometimes you can also include the company's name, your company name, because name, but it's optional. So one thing is memos, to, from, date, and subject. I will show you a memorandum, then you will understand. We will quickly look at the writing plan first of all, and then we can move on to the samples, and then I will further explain what this memo is. The first thing about memorandums would be that you have to use, by the way, direct strategy. Now, why we should use a direct strategy when we are writing a memo? The first thing is because it's an internal document, you are not sharing the message outside your organization. Memos can only be written for internal communication. So it's better to use direct strategy. Why we should use direct strategy? As discussed earlier, direct strategy is used for those purposes where their background information is not very important, or direct strategy is used for those audiences to whom you think that the reaction of the audience would be positive or at least neutral, or they may be willing to listen to you, they may be willing to receive your message, they may be interested in hearing from you. So as far as the memorandums are concerned, since it's an internal document, so remember one thing, that in an organization, people, they are not hostile towards each other. All the colleagues and peers, obviously, they work together to manage and reach organizational goals. So the reaction of the audience members, the reaction of the people who are inside the organization, are quite friendly, you can say, or you can say they are interested in communication. They are normally, their attitude is positive, and they are neutral, and they are willing to to share messages with each other easily. So that is why we have to use the direct strategy in a memo. Same is the case with emails. We normally, when we write emails, we use direct strategy. We come to the main idea, we come to the main message straight away without wasting our time. So when we are writing a memorandum, again, we have to front load main idea immediately. We have to start a memo with the main idea, with the main purpose. That's the better strategy. Yes, sometimes we write memorandums by using indirect strategy, but in very rare cases, as I said, that normally indirect strategy is used when you are trying to persuade people or prepare them to hear something shocking. So normally, because in an organization, people have a positive attitude and they are obviously open to the communication. So normally, it's better that you should start the memorandum by using a direct strategy by mentioning the main idea straight away. Right. So this is what you need to understand first of all as a as far as writing memorandum is concerned. Secondly, there is one more thing you have to understand. Normally in an organization, people know about the background details of any of the message or the news which are obviously shared, because they are involved in grapevine communication. Sometimes they gossip a lot about various issues and problems and things inside the organization. So they are aware of the background information normally, uh, and but it's not like this. You cannot include the background information in a memo. But if you want to include the background, it should be mentioned later on. So one thing you need to understand that we have started the memos by using direct strategy. This is a better strategy. But if you are using indirect strategy, obviously no one can stop you. By the way, because I normally say in my class as well that we are not living in an idealized world. In reality, people do many things on their own without even thinking what is the impact of the message or the effect of the message will be on other people. So, but as far as skillful communicators, as far as good business communicators are concerned, you guys you will be regarded as the skillful people in as far as communication is concerned. So you should know the right thing. You should always do the right thing, and you should be aware of the different kind of strategies we use in business writing or business communication. So remember one thing, that when you are writing memos, like emails, you have to obviously use direct strategy as well. So you start the message with the main idea. Now, just we will look at the writing plan simply, and then we move on to the sample. So there you will definitely understand what I mean by direct strategy and main idea and so on. Background information can be included, but if it's important, it should come after your main idea. And then come to, obviously, you can organize the body. That is, you include, as I said, we are discussing the writing plan of a memo. Based on, obviously, by dividing the whole body of the message into three parts, because this is how it becomes easy for us to understand how to start the message, how to end the message, what should come in the middle of the message. And by the way, you need to understand one more thing, that memorandums can be one-line messages like emails as well. Memos can be written for the whole page. It depends on the data or information you are sharing. Memos can be of one line or it can be of the whole page. So if you are writing only one line message, so there is no need to include the body of the message. You can just mention the main idea. For example, normally it happens that when some sort of holiday is announced in an organization. For example, if ICMA wants to announce Eid holidays, now everyone knows the background that in Ramzan we know that we will be having Eid holidays. But in order to make official, the ICMA, Institute of Cost and Management Accounts of Pakistan, this institute will share an internal document with the office staff, with the people who are working in the organization, by writing a memorandum. A written memorandum will be sent to everyone, right? And in order to make it official that the holiday is announced, the message can be of just one line. For example, the message can be like this, that the organization would like to announce Eid holidays from this date to this date on account of Eid. Now, this is just one line message. So that can be shared through a memorandum, right? So now it doesn't require the whole page. Now, the background information is also not very important over here, because everyone knows that we are obviously we are going through the fasting days, and then the Eid holidays will be given. So background information is already known by the people. So it's better to just send one line message, and that would be to make that communication official. And obviously people will definitely understand from which date and to which date the Eid holidays would be. So but if you're writing a memo more than one line, and it's including a lot of important details in it, so there you can obviously organize the body of your memos. Now, how to organize the body of the memo? Like emails, you can organize information explanations logically. You can write in points, you can write main ideas, list down main points, topics. You will can discuss one topic in each paragraph, right? Obviously, normally when we write a paragraph, we just include one idea in that particular paragraph. If you want to change the idea, you change the paragraph. So you can use numbered and bulleted list because it's a professional document, it's a business document. It looks more professional to use uh, bullets and numbered. Nowadays we have got the, you can say, options of using it because we are typing information. So you can organize all the data into bullets, right? And you can also include headings, and that can have a good effect on the reader's mind because each information will be properly organized, so they will understand, the readers will understand, okay, what type of ideas are mentioning your memorandum. So body can be organized like this. It depends on the situation, it depends on the purpose and the audience information, how much information you will be sharing in a body of the message. As I said, it depends on the data and information, and then we decide how to organize the body. Then comes the closing part. Obviously, we can end the message by by providing some action date, some deadline date. We can also summarize the message. These are just options. It's not like this that we have to include everything here, but we can use any of the four options over here. Or we can provide our contact details as well, as we normally do that whenever we are ending a business document, or even in our daily lives. We do that. For example, we can tell our friends that you can call me on a particular phone number, or you can contact me on a WhatsApp, and so on. So apart from the contact information, you can include the action information, any deadlines, dates, or any dates can be mentioned over here. We will discuss about this point in the other documents as well. And or you can just summarize the message, or you can provide a closing thought. Now, this closing thought is obviously, you can say, can be in the form of an opinion, or a prediction, or a suggestion of some kind, or a recommendation. It can be in any way. So it depends again on the message content, on the message purpose, right? So what type of closing thought you need to include, but it's not necessary that you have to include closing thoughts every time you're writing something. As I said, these are some of the closing options. Now we have generally seen what it can be the writing plan to write a memorandum. Now we move on to the, obviously, the some of the samples. We have to do it quickly because we have to discuss so many different types of documents today. And I will also explain the other things over there. So if I just share some other document with you guys. By the way, there's one more thing you need to understand. This writing plan can be used for any type of memorandums, right? Any type of informational memorandums. By the way, every memorandum is an informational memorandum. Or if you're, even if you're writing a memorandum to make any announcement, or to provide any instructions, or if you are trying to remind about some sort of conversation, you can just write a memorandum. So to have a record of it, so to remind people about something, to announce something, to provide to describe a process or describe a procedure of something, to give instructions to someone, or you can just share any type of information through memorandums. These are some of the purposes of writing memorandums. So now we will look at some of the examples over here. Just hold on, I will just share some other documents. Now these are real documents, original documents from some organizations. So I will just show you. Normally, people are aware of letters, but not memorandums much. So, but I will just show you something. These are the memorandums of other institutions where I have taught, or I am teaching nowadays. So, there I will show you some of them. The first one will appear in front of you. Hold on a minute. As you can see that this is one. So zoom it if you would like. Yeah. Now, if you look at this document, just increase. I will zoom it first. Now, now at the top you will see the name of the organization. Now, as I said, in memorandum, it's not very necessary to include the name of the organization at the top. It is optional. So because it's an internal document, so you can go away with the organization name. Normally, the whole organization name and the address is not given. Only a logo can also work, right? Because it's an internal document, it will not be sent outside the organization. So you can, it's just optional to include the organizational name. Everyone knows that it's the memorandum of the organization because they are working in that organization. So if you look at this memorandum, it's something is written at the top that is memorandum heading, and it's centered. This is the best place. You can write the short form of a memorandum as well. You can write memo. Now, if you look at, there are 4 important components of it, 2 from subject and date. Date can also come at the top after before 2 as well. CC is not included over here. As I said, CC can be included after 2, or you can say the at the end of the message can also be included as well. So 2, the name of the person to whom you are sending the message is written. The designation is mentioned, or at least one thing should have to be mentioned. It's not say it is not like emails where you are writing the email address. So here you have to write the complete name of the person or the designation. From is again given the name and the other things. The position is mentioned over there. Then the subject is included. Normally, subject is the last component. Last important element over here. Date comes earlier. Here it is. The date is written at the end, but you can just mention the date either before subject or before two as well. So these are the 4 things included over here. And the signature of the person who has written the message is also included on the right hand side. Obviously the printout is taken out and then the sign is given. Nowadays electronic signatures are also available, so you can use it if you want. Why the signature is over here, I will tell you later. Now if you look at the body of the message, look at the body here, right? You can notice that there is no salutation over here, like for example, dear sir, or assalamu alaikum, or dear madam, or dear Mr. Owais, dear Mr. Riaz. We do not include salutation in a memorandum. I'm talking about the standard format which is used in all over the world. In Pakistan, especially, sometimes it happens that you will find that people are using salutations when they are writing memorandums. We are not supposed to use a salutation at the top. Memorandums start suddenly, right? And you can just look at here that the message starts with the main idea. As it's written over here, the Department of English needs 2 revolving chairs, one for the in charge, other for the teacher of the department. No reason is given, no explanation or background is given here. This information is enough, and obviously some of the details are given under how many chairs are required, and the table is given obviously. And if you notice, in the end of the message there is no complimentary clause as well. We'll talk about this complimentary clause and salutation in the business letters, but not in a memorandum. We do not include it. Pakistan is not a good example. In government organizations, you will find, or in some of the private companies, even because people are not aware of how to write different documents, they're not very skillful enough. So they think that for every message we can include a salutation that is dear sir, dear madam, and complimentary clause that's for example, yours sincerely, yours truly. We do not include it in a memorandum. So it's memorandum normally it starts suddenly, as you can see, and it ends abruptly, and that is the whole message. It's just 1 or 2 lines message, and that's over, right? So there's no end, no thank you even. And again, normally in Pakistan we will find that people write thank you. It's not necessary to write thank you even. The message is enough. So just the 4 things at the top, 2 from date and subject. And this is a vertical format, by the way. The old format was different. Actually, when we used to write memorandums, 2 from comes on the left side, subject and date comes on the right side, but we use the vertical format nowadays. So in exams, whether you're writing a simple memorandum or whether you're writing a memo report, which I will discuss later on tomorrow probably. So you are not supposed to write use horizontal format. You can use the vertical format as given over here. Now we look at the second second sample, and then you will understand properly how the memorandum should be written. Uh, As you can see, this is our second example of a memorandum. It is of some other institution, and you can see that there is no address given at the top, but only the name of the organization is given. As I said, it's optional. Inter-office memo, you can call, you can say, you can write memo, memorandum, inter-office memo, internal memo, it doesn't matter. To all faculty members, yes, I just forget to mention that memo's message can be sent to one person or to many people at a time as well, to all the staff members as well, all faculty members, anyone, so it is the same message can be sent to one person, audience can be one person, or it can be many people at a time. So whatever the case is here, because you cannot write the names of all the members, all the staff members, so it's better to just use general terms, like for example, to all staff members, to office staff, to all faculty members, and so on. From corporate region of a unit, right? Date is included here, the subject is given over here, and now you can just read the message. You are requested to hold a guest speaker seminar webinar in the following month, that is April 2018. Kindly share the details of the guest speaker at your earliest. There is no background information at the start. Straight away the message starts with the main idea, with the main purpose. A request is made to organize a guest speaker session, and some sort of instruction is also given to the people, to all faculty members, by the corporate liaison or unit department. So you can see no background is given to why it is important to conduct a seminar right now. But in the details, some of the background information can be given, not at the start. And as you notice, there is no salutation here as well. No assalamu alaikum, no dear sir, and so on. You can just start suddenly. For the course allocation of the upcoming semesters, it is mandatory to hold a guest speaker seminar within the month of April 2018. All those who fail to call a guest speaker seminar may not be allocated, and so on. The other details are given. And if you have any queries, please feel free to contact CLU department. As I said, closing is here. Contact details are given over here. They are just requesting them to contact if anyone has any questions. So you can see the memorandum certainly ends, and there is an extra note given over here. You can see that there is no yours sincerely, yours truly, no regards, no nothing. It just starts and ends suddenly and abruptly. So this is what a memorandum is. And in exams, you can expect you may actually, exam situations can be sometimes someday you may be asked to write any kind of informational memo or instructional memo or procedural memo, or describing a process memo, or just writing an announcement. So you have to be very careful. You need to read the question properly, understand the main idea of the question, and then start your message with the main idea straight away without giving background. And if you think the background information has to be included, include the background after you have started. You can provide the details further. You can organize the data properly by listing, by bulleting, by using bullets, by using headings, by writing proper short paragraphs mentioning each idea separately. Then you can provide some of the closing thought, or you can provide your contact details at the end, or you can provide some action or deadline date at the end. It depends on the messages, depends on the situation. The memorandum is short and simple, right? So it's not very lengthy message. As I said, we try to write the memorandum within one page. That's normally a standard, right? If you have to write a lot of details, then we move on to the second page. Otherwise, we try to end the memorandum within one page. So this is just one sample. You can find the other samples in your books, the recommended reading books. So you can consult, or you can just obviously Google on the internet as well to find out how to write a memorandum, other things. So we can end with this first business document, that is memorandum, and you can find so many similarities of between memos and emails, as you have seen it right now. So now we move on to the business letters topic. It's important that we should straight away come to the second topic. This is the second business document which we have to discuss. So I will just again share some of the files with you guys. Let me open it first of all. Now remember, memos are not letters. Memos are only used for internal communication. Letters are different. As I said, memos are more, you can say, they are less formal than the business letters. So now we will discuss the business letters which are regarded as more formal. Just hold on. We move on to the business letters. The first thing about business letters is why are letters still important in business? So some of the points are given over here. You can just look at it quickly. They produce a permanent record, obviously. When you write something, it is considered more important, and you can have a record of it because whenever you write, it will stay there unless you destroy it. By the way, so nowadays we can use electronic, you can say, devices as well to save the written document. It will provide the permanent record. Unlike emails, they are confidential. Exactly as I said, emails can be sent to many people, and you may even not know how many people you have sent the email because there is a BCC column in an email. So sometimes it is not considered confidential. But when you write a letter, normally you write a letter to one person only, and the information which you share is very very important. It is well considered, by the way, and it is regarded as serious information. It's important information, and obviously sometimes confidential as well if you just highlight that particular aspect. There can be formality and sensitivity. As I said, they are considered more seriously. They deliver persuasive, well considered messages. So when a letter is written, obviously that is the best way to communicate outside the organization, especially when you are writing something. And you remember one thing, letters are very formal documents in the sense that they have to use a lot of formalities. So we move on to the next thing. First of all, we look at the parts of a business letter, and then we talk about the different types of letters which are used in business. Now, if you look at this is one of the business letter. First, as an example, we will be discussing about some of the parts of a business letter over here today, which will make easy for you to write any type of letter, right, in business. The first information is known as letterhead, which comes at the top, right? It is pre-printed most of the occasions. If it's not pre-printed, you need to provide the sender's address. That is the name of the company, the address of the company. If it is not pre-printed, this document, because this document itself is known as letterhead, but the first part of a business letter is the first element which has to be included is the letterhead. Sometimes this letterhead information is at the bottom of the page, so it means that there is no, you are not required to provide the center address at the top. This is the first part, the first element. The second thing which has to be included is the date of the letter, to whom you are, when you are writing a letter. This date line comes, it can be written in any format, depending on your organizational policy, right? Then comes the inside address or the receiver's address. Obviously, the address and the name of the person has to be written. If you know the name of the person to whom you're writing the message to, you can write the name properly. If you do not know, at least you have to include the designation of that person. Designation and the whole company name and the address and so on. Then comes the salutation. That is over here. You can write the salutation depending on the kind of relationship you have with the audience, right? For example, if you know someone well, you can use the first name of that person. But if you are writing it for the first time, if you are not very, if the other person does not know you, who you are much, so you can just use courtesy titles like Mr. or Mrs., or you can just say dear sir, dear madam. You can just say dear Mr. Owais, dear Mr. Riaz, first name, last name. Some of the details are given in your book, so you can just look at it to where to use what. Okay, because of less time, we have to move on to the other things, because these parts of the business letters can be read in the book as well. It's given everywhere. Then the fifth element which has to be included is the body of the message. Again, for the sake of understanding what type of message is, we can divide the body into opening or the introduction, the main body, and the closing part. We will discuss about it because we have to discuss various writing plans today of different types of business letters. So we will be discussing soon. And then comes the complimentary close part. Sincerely yours, or yours sincerely, yours truly, yours faithfully, whatever is required, you can include it. Then comes the signature of the person who has written this message, and remember one thing: signature always comes in the middle, before you can write your name. So the name of the person comes next, right, and the designation or the position or the department name comes with it identification, name identification. So you have to include the signature between the complementary clause and the author's identification and name. Normally, sometimes it happens that people sign the document after they have written the name of the person. After they have written it, but you need to provide some space between the complementary clause and author's name, and there you can you write the signature over here. In exams, normally, or you cannot sign the document, especially if you're not you're also not allowed to use electronic signature as well. So there you can just write the signature as a word, and the name as a word. So you can write SIGNATUR in place of signature. So the examiner will know that you understood that where the signature comes. After your signature, you can write the signature word and the name and author's identification next. So instead of writing your name, you can just write name and XYZ, or you can use XYZ ABC and so on. So these are some of the compulsory elements which have to be used in a letter. These are 7. I will just repeat it: letterhead or the sender's address, date, inside address, salutation, body, complementary clause, and author's name and identification. These are 7 elements. But there are some optional elements which can be included in the business letter. For example, reference initials or reference information. This reference can be provided at the end of the message as given over here, or it can come on the right side of the message, or on the top after the date or before the date even. Normally, when we talk about the government organizations, they always provide the reference. Now, this reference can be the letter reference, it can be the employee coding system, it can be in the coding system in any way in your organization. When you would start working in an organization, you will understand how this coding is written. It can be written in numbers, it can be written in alphabets as well, or it may be just how the documentation is done in the organization, and that reference is given at the top. So you can include this is one of the optional elements. The second optional element which can be included, optional means that if you want, you can include it. So optional element is the subject line. You must have seen that in a memorandum we have included a subject that's compulsory, but in a letter it's not very important. It depends on the type of letter which you are writing, especially when you're replying to some message, some request. There you can provide the subject, but it's not compulsory to include the subject, because as I said, we will be using direct and indirect strategy. So in some cases subject line is not very important. So but whatever the case is, आप इसको छोड़ सकते हैं, आप सब्जेक्ट को इंक्लूड करना जरूरी है। आप जैसे इस लेटर में देखेंगे यहाँ पे सब्जेक्ट लाइन इंक्लूडेड नहीं, तो आप चाहें तो ऑब्वियसली you can just leave it. But if you want to include the subject, it should come after the inside address, before salutation. And or if you talk about modern communication nowadays, subject becomes part of the body. So after the salutation, you can include the subject as well, and it is written like a heading, and then the body starts. So either you provide the subject line before the salutation or after the salutation, it doesn't matter, you can include it. This is the second optional element. CC can be another optional element which comes at the end of the message. Obviously, you write a message to one person particularly, and you provide the details of the person at the top, that is in the inside address. But if you are sending the message to the copy of the message to many other people, the secondary audiences, you should list down the names of those people, or at the end of the message. That is, you can just write CC, use colon, and then you can list down the names of the people. And obviously, you can also include one more optional element, that is, if you are attaching something with a business letter, you can include some of the documents as attachments, but you have to provide the details of those documents at the end again. At the end of the message, you can just write the heading of attachment or enclosures, and you can list down all the documents which you have attached with this letter. Or even if you're not providing the list of the documents, at least you should write the name, this word, attachments or enclosures. So this will give an idea to the receiver that you have attached something with this letter or enclosed something with this letter. Okay. So now these are some of the parts of the letter. The other thing about business letters, nowadays we use 2 types of formats to write letters. One is known as full block format, and the other is modified block format. The details of it can be can be understood through books or through by searching on Google. You can just look at it. But I will just discuss one format which is popular nowadays. That's known as full block format, and it's very simple to understand that you have to mention each element of the business letter, each part of a business letter. As over here, you can see that every part of a business letter starts from the left margin, from the top to the bottom. You can see everything is written on the left margin, and this is this in exams as well. It's become easy. It looks more professional. It looks more business-like to mention every part of a business letter from top to the bottom, all parts in the left margin. So this is one thing I would like to share with as far as full block format is concerned. And you're supposed to use full block format because this is more popular in business nowadays. Now we move on to the different types of business letters. The first type of a business letter is known as, you can say, routine business messages. So let's wait a second. We will discuss the first type, that is known as routine business letters. Letters are divided into four types. One is known as routine business message. The second one is persuasive letters. Third one are the negative messages, and the goodwill messages or good news messages are the fourth type. Because it's impossible to discuss all types of letters, because normally letters are of various types. So it's very difficult for us to discuss each type. But authors of communication have divided the all the types of business letters into you can say four different categories. So the first category is known as routine business letters. Now, routine means obviously, which means that the frequency of these letters which are published is higher than the other messages. In these routine business letters, we will be discussing about first of all routine requests or inquiries. This normally when we write business letters, we use this routine. This is the first type. So we will be discussing about routine requests and inquiries. In these routine messages, claim messages, complaint letters are also included, adjustment letters, order letters, and so on. So, but whatever type of letter you are writing in a routine business message, you have to be careful about. You can use a simple writing plan. For example, because it's a request message or an inquiry message, you can start your message by simply stating the main idea of the message straight away. And now, in these routine business messages, because the frequency of these messages is higher than the rest of the other messages, although you may be sending these messages externally, obviously, and you can write these messages to request for any type of information or any type of action. You can write these messages to request about something or to inquire about someone or something, or you can write these messages to claim about something or complain about something. Whatever the case is, you are sending the message outside the organization. Even though you are sending the message outside the organization, you will have to use a direct strategy. The better way to write routine business letters like memorandums is to use direct strategy. And you already know what direct strategy is. We have to start with the main idea, then we can provide the details. We are not supposed to it is not compulsory to use the background information, and then you can close the message as well. So it's very simple and straightforward. Even though you are writing to external audiences, to other companies, again, because this is a routine thing, it's not just a routine business letter for you. It can be a routine business letter for the other organizations, because these type of purposes are routine for every organization. So that is why, if it's routine for them as well, so it's better to use direct strategy. I'm saying better. I'm not saying that it's compulsory. It's just better to use direct strategy letters, right? So the first routine business message which we will be discussing as a sample would be routine request and inquiry letter, right? Because why we are classifying inquiries and request messages together, because normally when you want to inquire about someone and something, you will have to request. So what you need to do is you have to start the message with the request straight away. Now I'll show you one one sample, and through a sample I will explain the writing plan, because we don't have enough time for it. uh, I'll show you a sample, then we move on. Yeah, I will just show you one sample and then you will understand it. How a routine message can be written. Now, this is one letter and it's obviously following the full block format. It is having all the compulsory parts of a business letter as well. I will read the first line of this message. Since we are discussing about a routine request or a routine inquiry, so obviously you have to start the message with the request. So now there are so many different ways to request for information, and obviously there can be certain expressions. For example, you can start the message by using please, or you can use for example by asking a question straight away. Because when you ask a question, it is in one way you are requesting for information. Or you can start by just using a traditional approach, that is by saying I would like to request about this thing, I would like to inquire about something, I would like to like to know about something. This is a you can say conventional way or a traditional way. So whatever the case is, you have to mention the main idea. That is what the request is. Request, you will be requesting for information or action of some kind. So, and it's a routine thing, so it's straight away, without wasting time, without giving the background, you can mention the main idea of the desired action with the request. So from your expressions, from your sentence structure, it should look like a request. So when if you read this first line of the message, dear Mr. Dr. Potter, one university is writing to the other university, please use the attached form to give us your opinion of Linda and Michelle's chances of succeeding in graduate school. As you can see, it is starting with the request. They want some information about Linda and Michelle, because she may have applied in the organization in the university, and they are writing to the previous university where she was studying or having education. So they are saying that please use the attached form. Straight away, you can see the expression "please" used over here, because it's a routine request message, right? It's routine, it's a request message, so no background information is given yet. It starts with the main idea. It is using a direct strategy. It's not like we have to use direct strategy in writing memorandums only. We sometimes use direct strategy for letters as well. So you can see that where direct strategy is used, please use the attached form to give us your opinion of the dimensional chances of succeeding in school. For example, I will give you an example, a real life example, that when you came for the admission in this institution, right? What is the first thing you did when you obviously came? What is the first conversation you had with the administration? Obviously, you came inside the organization, you went to the administration department, and you obviously the first thing which you said was a request. For example, you requested for some information so that you can take admission over here. So you must have used these words. So please, can you provide? You may have started by the question. For example, you must have said, can you provide some information how to get admission over here? Or you must have requested about something, that please provide the details of the eligibility criteria of getting admission over here, because you knew that this administration, that people who are working at administration, for them it's a routine job, that to tell you about the admission policy. I'm sorry, other things. So so it's better to use a direct strategy. So you use the direct strategy over there without giving the background. For example, from where you have come from and from what kind of how much time you took to come over here. Instead of that, you started with the main idea by saying that you wanted admission over here, so you want some information, so you requested for it, and then you may have given the background information later on if it was requested by the other person. Otherwise, you have started with the yeah, with the direct strategy. So you need to look at these things, that when we are writing business messages, we can use direct strategy, especially for those situations which are routine things, which are routine purposes. For example, when you want to request for any information or action, or when you want to claim about something or complain about something, it's always better to use direct strategy. And in all the cases, in all these purposes, you should start by a request. You need to provide your first statement should be seen as a request. So you can use any of the various ways of requesting for information, but you have to provide the desired action, what you want, and also it should be in the form of a request. So here, inquiry is done about Linda and Michelle. So a request is made. Please use that dashboard to give us your opinion of Linda and Michelle's chances of succeeding in graduate school. Right, then the background information is given. She listed you as a reference on her application and has, sorry, I think, is it shared or not? Can you see the document? So, okay, yes, I will just show you. Share it again. The document is lost for some reason. All right, so this is the letter. If you see that, please use the attached form to give us your opinion of the admission chances of succeeding graduate school. She listed you as a reference on her application for admission and has waived her right of access to your reply. So everything which I had mentioned earlier, you can see that this letter starts with a request, and then the background information is given. Then the further details, as you can see, it depends on the data which you have. So the further details are listed down. And the further questions are asked about Linda and Michelle. You can see here in this letter, right? The bullet points are used over here, and why specific questions are asked, because you want specific details. You are requesting for specific information about a person. So it's better to ask questions, or even if you're not asking questions, you can just list down the things you want or require, right? The information you want, you should be listed down. It's always better to list it down. But if you do not want too much information, you can just write in paragraphs as well. So as you can see, the body of the message depends on the type of the details you require. So you can just go out explaining about something, and then you can end the message by the deadline date, by providing some sort of action information, action date, by providing some of the contact details, by using good wishes or appreciation. As you can see over here, it's written, in addition to answering these questions, please send us any other information you think might help us decide about Ms. Michelle's application. We will keep your replies strictly confidential because we will complete our review of applicants by May 15. We would appreciate receiving your response by mid-April. So what you need to understand here, whenever you're writing a routine request or a routine inquiry letter, or even if you're writing a routine claim message or complaint message, what you need to understand, first of all, is you have to start the message with the request and with the desired action. Here, the desired action was the inquiry or the request about or to know about Miss Michelle's chances of succeeding in graduate school. So this is the desired action, but you can see that starts with a request. Please, please is used over here. You can use sometimes a question technique as well, where you can ask a question straight away. The main question is asked straight away, and that is also will be considered as a request, right? Or you can just use a conventional start. I would like to request about something. I would like to know about something, and so on. So this is how you will start with the main idea. Then you can provide further explanation and background information. It depends again on the data. It depends on the information which you require. And you can end the message simply by providing some deadline date or some action information, because you would like to receive this information before a particular date. So you should mention the date or deadline date. And if you can provide the reason why you want this information before a particular date, it would be better as well. You can end with good wishes. You can end with appreciation. You can end with by saying that by providing some contact details as well. So you can see this letter is using a full block format as well. From the top to the bottom, every element is on the left margin. Only the letterhead is in the middle of the page at the top. Otherwise, all the other things are, you can notice it's written on the left margin. You can see one more letter, a routine message again, a routine claim. I will just show you that letter as well, so that further you can understand about these first type of business letters, routine messages. As I said, routine messages can be of various types: request for information or action, routine inquiries, routine claims, routine complaints, routine adjustment letters, routine order letters. So all this information is frequently shared between organizations, because and you have to write a letter, because you have to write a letter on a letterhead, because you are sharing information, because that letterhead will represent your organization. But any company where you are using where you are sending a routine message, they will not mind that you are using a direct strategy over there. And all these messages are classified as request messages in some way or the other. Even if you are writing a claim letter or a complaint letter, again, you cannot threat other people. You cannot be rude towards them. you can only request for information, even if you want to complain about something or claim about something. Claim means, for example, you have requested for some goods from the organization, and for some reason some of the goods are damaged or some of the goods are lost. So what you do that, you send the message with those goods back with a letter, a claim letter or a complaint letter. So I will just show you one letter which can help you understand what our claims message is. Now, as you can see, there is one claim message written, a routine claim letter is written. Although this is written at the personal level, one person is writing to a company, to shop, or, by the way, but we can understand it easily. What this message is routine claim. As I said, in organizations, normally when we write claim letters, when we are not satisfied with some product or service or company practice, so we would like to request for some sort of credit or you can say refund or some sort of you can say transfer or replacement of those goods or exchange of those goods. So we write a claim message or a complaint message, and we are supposed to write these claims or complaints or adjustment letters by using the direct strategy. Again, we should start the message with the request and with the desired action. And please do not be worried about this salutation, ladies and gentlemen. This is not the way we should include the salutation in the business letter. I'm sorry that I have just were not able to correct it. You have to start again with a conventional way. That's dear sir, dear madam, dear Mr. Owais, dear Mr. Riaz. You can use a designation, dear customer service manager, or so on. Then if you look at the first line of the message, it's again starts with the request and the desired action. This person wants to replace one equipment, so please replace the Ranger personal digital assistant. And then the details, the nature of the claim is given. This is a claim letter, this is a complaint letter. So instead of actually using rude words or negative terms, so you can be positive. You can just request for exchange or transfer or refund or replacement or and so on. Whatever you are obviously complaining about, you should start with your desired action by using the direct strategy and with the request, and the tone should be requesting. You can start with a question technique as well. You can say, can you replace, or can you please replace the mobile phone or the Ranger personal digital assistant or whatever the equipment is, or any goods which you want to just return. But remember one thing, you have to use a direct strategy. You have to start with the main idea. The main idea is the request. The main idea is the desired action. That is what you want to be done with this in order to resolve this issue. So first of all, you should tell your intentions by saying either you want to refund up something, or you want to adjust something, you want to exchange or replace something, or you want to simply return the goods or so on. So here this person wants to replace this equipment because there was some problem in the equipment. Then if you notice, the body of the message consists the background information, or you can say the nature of the claim or the nature of the complaint. By he is actually telling the receiver of the message that there is a problem in this equipment. What are the problems? All these problems are mentioned over here. And he has also provided some sort of documentary details. As you see in the second paragraph, is written as the enclosed sales slip shows. So it means that he has sent the copy of the invoice or the receipt of the sales slip, because this will justify your claim, this will justify your complaint that you have purchased something from a particular place. So you need to provide some documentary details as well. And the other details are given over here. I will not read this letter. I was just showing you so that you can understand how the letter can be just organized properly by using a proper writing plan. And if you notice, in the end, it's mentioned, as I am in sales and on the road most of the time, I need a reliable PD every day. For this reason, I would appreciate receiving a prompt replacement. He needs replacement quickly. He's not giving a deadline date because he's giving the reason as well, because he's on the road. So prompt replacement is necessary, and so on. And again, the same writing plan is used, format is used. That is the full block format. As I said, this is more professional. Every element of the business letter is on the left margin, as you can see. So these are some of the two letters or two samples we have discussed regarding the first type of business letters, first category of business letters, that is our routine, that are routine business messages. So whenever you are writing a routine business message, it includes all types of request messages for information, all types of inquiry messages for information, for inquiry about someone or something, all types of uh, routine claims and routine complaints, order messages, and so on. So these messages we have to use a direct strategy, and on all these messages we have to start with the request and with the desired action by using direct strategy, and then we can move on to the details of the message or the background information of the message, and end the message by providing some deadline date or action date or some contact details, and so on. So this is a simple writing plan which you can use for writing any type of routine business letter. Right, we will move on to the second type, that obviously again it's better to use another direct strategy letter, and that would be I will show you the second category. It's better that we should discuss another type of direct strategy letter, and those are the second category, that is goodwill, good news, and other social messages. Now, the same direct strategy can be used for second category business letters, that are goodwill messages, good news messages, and other social messages. It happens normally when we are writing letters, we are sending the letters out for external communication. We are sending the letters outside the organization, not normally inside. But sometimes we can also share information through letters inside the organization as well. Especially when we are writing goodwill messages. Now, what is this? The meaning of goodwill messages? Goodwill message means where obviously which can improve your relationships with the with your colleagues, with the other people, and that can only be done if you are actually taking care of them, right? For example, if you think about your friends, why your friends are your friends, because you have a goodwill with them, you have good relationships with them. At the time of for example sadness, you send them condolence messages. When they are happy, you are also happy. When they have given you some favor, you thank them, right? When they have achieved something, you congratulate them. That is why goodwill is maintained with your family members, with your good relatives, with your friends. Similarly, in organization as well, the people who are working together, they also share goodwill messages, these types of goodwill messages. They write thank you messages or congratulatory messages, or you can say invitation letters are given, right? Or condolence messages, and so on. So goodwill messages, good news messages, they are classified together, because if you want to share any good news with the other people, you can also use the same strategy which we will discuss right now. And other social messages means extending sympathy letters, condolence messages, and so on. The What you need to understand in this second category of business letters, these are more positive letters. Routine business messages are also regarded as positive letters, because you're requesting for some information over there or some action over there. But goodwill messages, good news messages, and social messages, these messages which are again sent mostly inside the organization, because as you know, letters are more personal. So you can write letters for inside the organization, or they can also be sent outside, these goodwill messages, so to customers, to clients, that can actually have to maintain goodwill, good relationships with those people as well. So whatever the case is, uh, some of the examples of goodwill messages can be thank you letters, congratulation messages, recommendation letters, you can say reference letters, and you can talk about, for example, any other type of invitation letters, extending sympathy or condolence messages. So there are so many different examples of goodwill messages, because these messages are written to maintain goodwill, to form good relationships with other people. Only people who you're concerned about, for them you will be writing these messages. Otherwise, you won't write these messages. So as in our normal lives, in our daily lives, we are maintaining goodwill, so we can maintain goodwill with with the office staff and clients and colleagues and customers as well. Now, the first thing about goodwill messages is we have to think about five S. We discuss about 7 C's, but we have to think about 5 S in writing goodwill, good news, or other social messages. And remember, this is a different category from routine business messages. The first category was routine business messages. The second is goodwill. And today, I think we won't be having enough time to discuss the other two types of letters. We will discuss tomorrow about persuasive letters and negative messages, which are the third and fourth type messages. So whatever the case is, goodwill messages and good news messages, again, if you think about it, it is always better to use direct strategy, like routine business messages, like memorandums. So direct strategy, you have a fair bit of an idea now that we start the message with the main idea. And as I said, these messages can come into various different examples, like for example, thank you letters, or congratulatory messages, or invitation letters, recommendation letters, reference letters, and so on. So you have to start the message with the main idea. I will show you some example, and then you can understand what I mean by saying that you have to use a direct strategy. But first, we have to discuss some 5 important things regarding goodwill messages here. As written here, tips for writing goodwill messages or good news messages. The first thing is, be selfless, be specific, be sincere, be spontaneous, and keep the message short. See, these are the 5 S of goodwill messages. So whenever we are writing these messages, we have to focus on the person to whom we are writing to, or the event which we are trying to describe. We cannot be talking about ourselves in these messages. Secondly, you need to be specific to that particular person and particular event. As I said earlier, you need to be very honest and sincere. And spontaneous means that whatever information you're sharing, you should share it with sincerity, with honesty. You cannot be pretentious or show off, right? You have to include genuine feelings over there. And spontaneous means that as if the other person is standing in front of you and is speaking to them. Normally, when we are speaking to the other person face-to-face conversation, our thoughts and ideas are spontaneous. Whatever we think at that moment, we express it genuinely. So in the same way, the letter tone, the goodwill message tone should be such that it should look as if you are not planned much. You are more spontaneous, right? Whatever comes in your mind, genuine feelings, genuine expressions, you just write in those letters. So this is what spontaneous means. And we try to keep these messages short. Okay, so if you look at the quickly, be selfless means discuss the receiver, not the sender. Be specific instead of generic statements. You did a good job. Include specific details. Your marketing strategy to target key customers will prove to be outstanding. All right, we have to be specific over here. You should be sincere. Show your honest feelings with conversational, unpretentious language. We are all very proud of your award, right? For example, is given over there. Be spontaneous. Strive to make the message natural, fresh, and direct. Avoid canned phrases or pretentious or show-off phrases. If I may be of service, please do not hesitate. Those expressions which are very commonly used, it has become so common that it has lost its meaning. We are not supposed to use those expressions. For example, like this: please do not hesitate to contact me if I may be of service. These are just canned phrases. They are used so many times in the messages that they have lost meaning, right? So instead of this, we need to be more natural and fresh over here. Keep the message short. This is the 5th C of goodwill messages. Remember that although they may be as long as needed, most goodwill messages are fairly short, obviously, because we have to use direct strategy as well. Now, this is one example of thank you letter. And as you can see, the salutation is given, "Dear Professor and Mrs. Shelton." The first line of the message, because this is a thank you letter, so the receiver, the sender of the message, has started the letter with a thank you. "Thanks for inviting the other members of our business club and me to your home for dinner last Saturday." As you can see, this is a direct strategy letter, and genuine feelings are mentioned. Thank you is mentioned straight away because this is a thank you letter. This is a goodwill message. That is why you start the message with the the main idea, and here the main idea is to thank the other person or the people about something. After you started the message, the details of the event is given, or if you're writing to if you're thanking a particular person, obviously you can talk about those people rather than just of writing about yourself. So it's written, "The warm reception you and your wife gave us made the evening very special." As you can see, this message is focused specifically to the invitation they received, to the dinner given to them. It's talking about the dinner. It's more specific about the dinner. It's not about how about yourself. It's about the event, especially here. So the warm reception you and your wife gave us made the evening very special. Your gracious hospitality, the delicious dinner served in a lovely setting, and the lively discussion following dinner all served to create an enjoyable evening that I will remember. And if you see the end of the message, again, appreciation is given, some good wishes is given, some goodwill statement is made. "We appreciate the opportunity you provided for us students to become better acquainted with each other and with you." So some future relationship will be obviously it's mentioned. It's again repeated, by the way, that appreciation is given over here. So as you see, it's a very simple letter. It is using 5S of goodwill messages. That is, it is selfless letter. It is very specific to the event and the person. It is to the receiver, by the way. It is spontaneous. It's the language is such as if you are speaking to the person face to face. It's whatever comes in your mind, you are expressing it genuinely. These are the only letters where you can express your feelings. You can mention the feelings. Normally, when we write business letters, we avoid using emotions and feelings. But when we are writing goodwill messages or good news messages, you are allowed to express your feelings, genuine feelings, without being pretentious or sentimental. So because you're thanking the person, you are showing your genuine feelings over here, right? So here you can be spontaneous, you can be specific. The message is short, it is selfless, it is obviously you can say, and whatever you have mentioned it with sincerity and honesty. So this is one example of of a goodwill message. One more example of a goodwill message can be extending sympathy letters. If someone is, for example, has suffered a loss or tragedy, you can write a condolence message or a extending sympathy letter. Again, it's written. I will not show you the letter, but we can see the writing plan, and you will find that it's similar to a thank you letter as well, in the sense that the writing plan is direct and it follows the same pattern as you have written any other goodwill message, for example, a thank you letter or a congratulatory message, and so on. So if you see, refer to the loss or tragedy directly, but sensibly in the first sentence, mention the loss and your personal reaction. So you can start the message by saying that we or I am sad to hear about the loss you have suffered or the tragedy you have gained. You can start in this manner. Again, you are sharing your genuine feelings. You can use I and we attitude over here. These are the only letters where your genuine feelings can be mentioned. You attitude is not very important over here because you are expressing your genuine feelings. So you can use I and we. So if you are actually extending sympathy to someone, you can say, I feel sad about it. That you have lost someone or you have faced a particular tragedy. You can start the message in this manner. For deaths, praise the deceased, describe positive personal characteristics, and so on. Well, obviously, in our if you talk about our culture, we also extend sympathy or provide a condolence message by using a direct strategy. We come straight away to the relatives. We actually meet them, and the first thing we say is that we are deeply saddened to hear the news that someone is dead, your relative is dead, right? We start the message directly with our genuine feelings. We say we feel sad about it. We are saddened up to hear about it. we are we share the same feelings which you have. This is how we also extend our sympathy towards the relatives of the deceased. And then we straight away come to the by mentioning that how we came to know about the news, if someone is dead or not. So we mention about the details of it, that we came to know that Mr. So and so has passed away, he has suffered an accident, and so on. So after mentioning your genuine feelings, you give the details of how you came to know about the news. Then you talk about the person. If you know that person who is dead, uh, you focus on the person, not about yourself, but you focus on the person, and you discuss, you can say, uh, good things about the person, not those negative things, but good things about the person, so that the relatives feel comfortable. So this is how you actually extend your sympathy. After mentioning the details of the things, good things about the person who is deceased, you offer help or support at the end of the message by saying कि भाई, जैसा हम उर्दू में भी कहते हैं कि हमारे लायक कोई काम है तो हमें प्लीज बताइएगा, हमारा कॉन्टैक्ट नंबर ये है, हम हमेशा आपके साथ अवेलेबल हैं, आपकी हेल्प करने के लिए हमेशा तैयार हैं. If you are facing any problem, you can. And whether it's a west, we are living in the west, or whether we are living in our culture, the same strategy, direct strategy, is used, and 5S of goodwill messages is used. You will find that there is no difference. All right, so we start by expressing your genuine feelings, and then you focus on the person or the event, and you end the message by providing your help or some appreciation or good wishes, and so on. So you can end by offering assistance, suggest your availability, especially if you can do something specific. And on a reassuring positive note, perhaps refer to the strength the receiver finds in friends, families, colleagues, or relations. You need to look at some of the samples which you already have in your books, right? And you will find that this second category of business letters, that is goodwill or good news messages, use the direct strategy with whatever that genuine feelings you have regarding something or someone, or you can, even if you're sharing a good news, you start the good news with the direct strategy by simply mentioning the news straight away. So this also the same strategy we are using in our real life. So it's not like this that these concepts are alien to us, or we are looking at it for the first time in our lives. No, because we have got many friends and relatives, and we are supposed to share goodwill messages with them all the time. So we use the same strategy as it's being used in the business writing as well. So we have discussed today about the routine business messages. This is the first type of business letters, and the second type, that is goodwill, good news messages. You can read the, I think, chapter 8 of Excellence in Business Communications in order to understand further about goodwill, good news, and routine messages, positive messages. So these are the two types of letters, categories, you can say, where and obviously these categories are depending, it depends how they are categorized, it depends on the purpose of the message or the audience reaction of the message, right? So it's not like this that they are just haphazardly classified or categorized. These two categories uses a direct approach, direct strategy, a deductive approach. You start with the main idea, with especially you start with the request if you're writing a request message of some kind, right? And then you give the further details. If background information is important, you include it, and you end the message by a goodwill statement and by appreciation, by providing some deadline date information, and so on. So in both the categories, you are using direct strategy. There are other categories of business letters, the other two types, that's negative messages or bad news messages, and persuasive letters or persuasive request messages. These messages we will discuss tomorrow, and you will see that we are using indirect strategy over there. So till now we have discussed the direct strategy letters. Tomorrow we will discuss about indirect strategy, and obviously we'll move on to the report writing topic as well, inshallah. So Allah Hafiz, see you tomorrow. I'm ending the session now.